الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه اللهم إنا نسألك حبك وحب من يحبك وحب عمل يقربنا إلى حبك يا رب العالمين. Thank you all for showing up today, inshallah. Can we maybe scoot up just a little bit, just to this line, so some brothers who end up watching it late, they can come sit, bismillah. I want to start off by thanking all you guys for being here. First and foremost, thanking the Denver West Youth Group, my boy Dylan, who's running things, always behind the scenes. He's the brains behind a lot of these operations that we do. I just get up here and talk, but nothing will be possible without our boy Dylan back there, so give him a shout out. Mashallah. And big shout out to IOCC for helping organize as well and partnering up with us and coming here. We have our boy out running the computer. We got anonymous questions today, so feel free to scan the QR code. Please, no silly, immature questions like we had last time, and we won't be reading them anyway. So later after the lecture, we're going to try to keep the lecture short, and then we're going to have the anonymous questions. So feel free to scan these questions here. They're also up on my Instagram story, so you can scan it or screenshot it, and then it can take you to the proper place
Abdullah,
to ask anonymous questions.
are we doing it on your live?
Yeah.
On your account?
Let's see what else. There will be iftar tonight. It won't be at CBA. So we're going to try to end early. That way anybody can go catch iftar at IOCC. IOCC has proudly helped us sponsor iftar. We also had MyPi, who contributed a good amount to iftar. For those who don't know, MyPi stands for Muslim Youth for Positive Impact. They host a lot of events in the community. They take care of the youth, specifically refugee families, and they care a lot about mental health, especially with our youth. So MyPi, Muslim Youth for Positive Impact, shout out to them for helping out with the iftar as well. And we have, mashallah, Imam Shafi'i just walked in, alhamdulillah. And we got Imam Shams. So today, ask all the questions. We got people to answer. Ask all the questions you need to ask people. And without further ado, let's get going into this. So the last 2 weeks, what have we been talking about? For the last 2 weeks, and I will start calling on people if you don't answer. The last 2 weeks, what have we talked about? Nobody knows.
Sure.
Was it?
Sure.
Levels of khushu'. Last week we talked about levels of sincerity, levels of khushu'. Okay, what else did we talk about? What were the first 2 weeks focused on though? There was something specific that we focused on the first 2 weeks.
Daily routine.
Daily routine, but what about your daily routine? You should have some etiquette, proper manners and etiquette. It's on the flyer, it's very easy to know. But proper manners and etiquette that we spoke about for the first 2 weeks. Now that was part one of what? There's two parts of the religion. Part one was obedience, and part two will be disobedience, right? So know that the religion is made up of two parts. One of them is obedience to Allah, and the second part is refraining from disobedience. Now I want to ask you guys, what do you guys think is more important? Obedience or disobedience? What's more important? Refraining from disobedience. Why do you say that? I hear both answers. Somebody said refraining, you're saying obedience? Why would obedience, and I don't think there's a wrong answer to this, by the way. Why would obedience be?
Because you're staying on the right path.
You're staying on the right track. You're trying to stay, okay? And for those who said disobedience, why would disobedience be more important than obedience? Who said disobedience from the guys? I heard it.
Hardens your heart.
Huh?
Hardens your heart.
It hardens your heart. Now, ulama split up in this topic. They say obedience is more important, and some say disobedience is more important. Why is that? They say obedience is important because you need to be praying. You need to be going to Umrah. You need to do Hajj. You need to do Ramadan. You need to do all these other things. You have to do these. Umrah isn't one of those things that you have to do, but you have to be obeying Allah, right? Then, once you get that routine down, then you can start focusing on staying away from disobedience. But the other side of scholars say, no, that's That's not the case. Because they say La ilaha starts with no, don't do, stay away. Stay away from doing certain things. La ilaha is stay away. Don't disobey. Don't disobey Allah. And then Allah comes in after. Then obey Allah. Right? Then come. So that's how they break it up. But in my personal opinion, I think both views are correct. Because you need both. You can stay away from disobedience, but if you don't believe in Allah, then what? Or you can have all the obedience in the world, but if you have all the obedience in the world, but you're doing all these other things, then what? Right? So, in my personal opinion, I think you need both. Is there a clock somewhere? So I can keep track of time?
5:37.
Perfect. Thank you, Dylan. Alright, so refraining from disobedience. Now, so فَطَاعَ يَقْدِرُ عَلَيْهَا كُلُّ أَحَدٍ. Being good, obeying Allah, doing good deeds, anybody can do it. Look, we're all here at the masjid. Anybody can do it. Being good, anybody can do it. Right? But وَتَرْكِ الشَّهَوَاتِ لَا يَقْدِرُ عَلَيْهَا إِلَّا الصِّدِّيقُونَ. But doing good or staying away from your desires and passion, the only people who can attain that and achieve that is the truthful and the people with true sincerity. That's who can stay away from, their passions and desires. That's the hard part, right? Now, Dylan and I run a youth group in Golden, right? But in the past, I've had an issue with my anger. So I'm over here trying to lead kids, but if one thing ticks me off, I'm over here. So it's not easy for anybody just to tone it down or keep this tongue quiet and there's been plenty of times where Dylan had to pull me to the side and says, yo, chill. It's not worth it. Relax, calm down. Whether it's an altercation with this person, with the parent, with the child, whatever it is, it always has to be, because it's not easy to refrain from disobedience. It's not easy to refrain from your passions and your desires. It's not easy, right? Rasulullah ﷺ قال المهاجر من هجر السوء. The Prophet ﷺ said, المهاجر من هجر السوء. What does that mean? Who can tell me what that means? What does muhajir mean? Traveling. The immigrant. The immigrant is the one who travels from evil. Now what did the muhajirin do? They traveled from Mecca where there was a bunch of evil. Right? The muhajirin, they traveled from Mecca where there was a bunch of evil. But he says, وَالْمُجَاهِدْ مَنْ جَاهَدَ هَوَاهُ. The warrior, what does mujahid mean, warrior? He's the one who fights his passion. So what's the Prophet ﷺ here saying? The warrior, it's harder for you to fight your passion than it is for you to just leave evil. Right? Because sure, we made it, we left Mecca to Medina, but we're not done. We're not done. We gotta fight all these other things now. And it all has to do with your nafs, internally. So, when it comes down to disobeying Allah, how do we disobey Allah? How do we disobey Allah? With what? The answer is very simple, by the way. Don't complicate it for yourself. Sinning, how do you sin? What is it? Bodily organs, right? Your body parts. Okay? So, how many body parts do we have?
7.
What was it? 7. Awesome. Let's name them off, other than Dylan. Let's name them off. Hands. Tongue. Your eyes. Ears. So we said hands, tongue, eyes, ears. There's 3 more. Legs. Arms is kind of a part of, we're going to say hands and arms are a part of. Your heart. You beat me to it. I'm going to leave that to the last, but it's not one of them. But I'm going to leave it for the end. Your eyes, we mentioned ears, we mentioned tongue, and we mentioned, what else did we mention? Your hands. Somebody said your legs. Your mind is not one of them. I'm trying to find the, I don't know how this all printed out. Kenan, I don't know what you did to me, man, but you put me in a doozy, bro.
It's fun now.
What was that? Your heart? Heart we're going to leave to the end. But we said, eyes, ears, hands. We're forgetting something. Your legs, your tongue. And what else? What am I missing, Dylan? We mentioned 6. What am I missing? What you, oh, there it is. Okay, eyes, ears, tongue, your stomach, okay, your hands, your legs, and your private parts. And your private part. So here are the 7. So let's start off. So واعلم أنك إنما تعصي الله تعالى بجوارحك وهي نعمة من الله عليك وأمانة لديك. So you're going to disobey Allah with the things He has given you, even though it's a blessing, and on top of that, it's a trustworthy amana. This body does not belong to you. This body does not belong to you. So, and this is the biggest ingratitude we have as humans, because we use our body parts to constantly sin. That is the biggest ingratitude we have towards Allah, right? That the easy example to think about is Allah is trusting you with these things. Now imagine a lot of you are in college or school or whatever the case may be, and let's say, for example, probably a lot of you guys buy your own books and things like that. Let's say, for example, your dad gives you his credit card, your mom gives you his credit card, and says, buy your books for school. But instead, you buy some books, but instead you go buy also a PlayStation 5, put it on the card. You buy a new pair of Dunks for Air Force, put it on the card. Oh, I need these new heels and all this makeup and this like that, you put it on the card. Then your dad comes to find out, looks at the bill and the statement. What are you doing? I gave you the card for your books. And now what? You spent all this money. Will your dad give you that card again? You lost your trust. Now imagine all the limbs we have that we continue to use to sin, that Allah trusted us with. Every time you sleep, should you even expect that Allah gives you back the ability to raise your hands and make dua? Or to speak again? When last night you were sitting there speaking, slandering, talking bad about people, raising your voice at your parents, do you expect Allah to give you that bounty again? Because you were neglecting it. So if you don't fight your own nafs and your own desires, then you become your own enemy. You become your own enemy. Because nobody else can help you at that point. When you're alone, you're thinking of doing all these bad things because it's coming from you. That's your own desire and your own nafs. You become your own enemy in that case. Right? Because it's easy to give sadaqah. It's easy to get up and pray. I know it's not that easy, but it's easy. Right? It's easy to go Hajj and Umrah. Passport, get a visa, pay some money, you're there. That's simple. But how hard is it to refrain from doing bad things when you're alone? Or when you got other people influencing you? Right? Because it's easy to do things in front of people, but it's not easy to do the other things that are internal, like lying, backbiting, raising your voice at your parents. Some of us respect our friends more than we respect our parents. Consistently. We raise our voices at our parents, but our homeboy, no, mustaheel, that's my boy. I can't get, why is Kinan after that? Just giving him the side eye there. You guys feel that relationship or no?
That was my guy right here.
MashaAllah. So, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so one time they were coming back from war, right, jihad, and he said, رَجَعْنَا مِنَ الْجِهَادِ الْأَصْغَرِ إِلَى الْجِهَادِ الْأَكْبَرِ. He said, we told the Sahaba, we've returned from the big war, from the small war, but we're going to the big war. The Sahaba, what are you talking about, man? We were just fighting, now we're going back to Medina, we're going home. What do you mean big war? He said, no, the big war, the big jihad al-Akbar, is what? Now you gotta wake up to pray Fajr. Now you gotta convince this to get up and pray. Yeah, you just fought with your limbs, but you gotta convince this to pray. It comes internally. Now you gotta read Quran. Right? Now, Umrah, you go do Umrah, right? You're not gonna find out how Umrah worked out for you. See how Umrah worked out 2 months, 3 months later. Everything, now when you're at Umrah, you're praying on time, you're getting up to pray Fajr, you're at the Masjid al-Nabawi, you're at Mecca, you're making sure you pray all your prayers, make sure you're reading extra Quran and making extra dua. But what happens after you come back? Ramadan, we develop all these habits during Ramadan. Reading Quran every day, making a khatma, try to understand Quran, memorizing Quran, giving sadaqah almost every day. What happens after Ramadan? This is what the Prophet ﷺ was saying. We're coming back from Jihad al-Asghar. We're coming back from a small war, but we're going to go face a big war. And that's the war of you fighting yourself. Now when we speak about disobedience, we have to speak about the limbs, right? Now in the Quran it says, يَوْمَ تَشْهَدُ عَلَيْهِمْ أَلْسِنَتَهُمْ وَأَيْدِيهِمْ وَأَرْجُلُهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. On that day of resurrection, your tongues, your hands, and your legs will testify against you. You're not going to be able to control it. So everything that you do, I might go do something, then I can lie to my parents and say, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. They never were there to see it. But in front of Allah, try to lie. You're not going to be able to. This is going to speak against you. This is going to speak against you. Your legs are going to speak against you. Your eyes are going to speak against you. Your private part will speak against you. Your stomach will speak against you. Everything will speak against you on that day. Everything you've done will speak and testify against you, and you have no control over it. Now, we mentioned the eye. فَإِنَّهَا خُلِقَتْ لَكَ لِتَهْتَدِي بِهَا فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ. Your eye was created for you so that you might be guided in darkness. So that you might be guided in darkness. وَتَسْتَعِينَ بِهَا فِي الْحَاجَاتِ. And so that it might help you out with respect to your needs. Okay? And he says here, وَتَنْظُرْ بِهَا إِلَى عَجَائِبِ مَلَكُوتِ الْأَرْضِ وَالسَّمَاوَاتِ. And you look at the wonders of Allah. What Allah has created for you. You use your eyes to appreciate the things Allah has created for you. The mountains, the scenery, beautiful Colorado, the lakes, traveling. You use your eyes for that. But he says, and تَنْظُرْ بِهَا. There's 4 things you gotta stay away from with your eyes. The first thing, staying away from is constantly looking at the other gender. That's one. But then also looking at them in a lustful way. Looking at the other gender constantly, but specifically in a lustful way. Looking at somebody in a haram way. Looking at somebody in a way where you have lust inside you towards that person or the other gender. Okay? And then looking at a Muslim with the evil eye or the eye of disgust. Make sure you don't do these 4 things. Looking at the other gender. And looking at them specifically in the other way, in a lustful way. Then he says, looking at your Muslim brother with the evil eye, or your Muslim sister with the evil eye, or in a look of disgust. Just a gross look. Okay? And the last thing is, you're on the lookout for other Muslims' faults. You see another Muslim, you want to pinpoint every single thing they got on wrong. Every single thing. That's the only reason you're looking their direction is because you just want to point out every single thing they're wearing wrong or they're doing wrong or whatever the case may be. Just so once you're done praying, they come up to you, oh, you did that incorrectly. Shouldn't you be focusing on praying? So be aware of these 4 ways you use your eyes. Number 2 was the ear. فَحْفِظْهَا عَنْ أَنْ تَعْصِيَ بِهَا إِلَى الْبِدْعَةِ أَوْ الْغِيبَةِ وَالْفَحْشِ. So protect your ears from listening to backbiting, bad talk, going into falsehood, or talking false about others. But instead use your ears for you to listen to speech from Allah, Quran, وَسُنَّةِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم, and to listen to the sunnah of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, and to gain wisdom from the friends of awliyaullah. To gain wisdom from the people Allah has blessed with knowledge. So you might gain beneficial knowledge so that you may enter Jannah. That's how we should be using our ears. And keep in mind, the listener shares the sin as the person who said it. The listener shares the sin as the person who said it. What does that mean? What does that mean when he says the listener shares the sin as the person who said it? Yes?
Because when you're listening, you're almost like you're part of the problem.
What if I objectify and I'm listening? What if that person is saying something, right? And they're backbiting about somebody else. And I say, hey, I don't agree with what you're saying. You're not saying they're doing wrong, but you're saying, I just don't agree with what you're saying. You have this, ideology about this person, but I see a different view. What does that count as? Is it the same thing?
No, if you're just like not agreeing or disagreeing, you kind of are agreeing. If you're not disagreeing, if you don't say these two people are talking and they're talking about another Muslim sister in the wrong way, if I don't say anything, then I'm just as guilty as being part of that conversation.
Exactly.
So yes, they're different. It's one
Exactly.
you're really being part of it, the other you're being part of the solution.
Exactly. So the person who's sinning, so let's say me and Al-Bara are sitting down and I keep bad mouthing to somebody else. And Al-Bara is just like, he's just listening. He's not saying nothing, but he's just listening. Me and him share that sin. We share that sin. Because he didn't sit there and say, yo, bro, shut up, we're fasting. I was told not to say the word. No, I'm sorry. I was told not to say that. Alright, but say, yo, you're fasting. Stop it. Protect yourself. Then at that point, he gets the reward and doesn't get that. So as for we mentioned the eyes, and now we got into the ears. Okay? Now the next part is the tongue. فإنما خلق لك لتكثر به ذكر الله تعالى وتلاوة كتابه وترشد به خلق الله تعالى إلى طريقه. And your tongue was created for you so that you could spend much time in remembrance of Allah, so that you can guide other people to the right path. And here, وتظهر بها ما في ضميرك من حاجات دينك ودنياك. And you use your tongue for the worldly matters that you need. But you're not using, now there's 7 parts to the tongue. 7 or 8 parts that you can fall into when it comes down to the tongue. Okay? First part is lying. First part is lying. If you wish to understand lying and why you shouldn't be lying, then how do you feel? Think about how you feel when somebody lies to you. Now this is something I have to constantly keep in my mind. Now it's just like, okay, there's no point of saying anything false. If they don't like you, they don't like you. Maybe I'm saying something only to please somebody, or maybe I'm saying something only to hide something, right? And even though it's not true. Maybe I shouldn't have put myself in that position to begin with. There comes to a certain extent where you will hold yourself accountable to why you're even lying. Because now you're making somebody else upset, and also at the same time, you're not just making somebody else upset, but at the same time, it doesn't look good on you. So when it comes to lying, see how you would feel when somebody lies to you. That's number 1. Number 2, when it comes, now we're still on the tongue here. So we've only covered 3, we covered ears, eyes, and tongue. But the tongue, there's 8 subparts. Number 2 is, and we're still on the tongue, beware of promising something that you can't give. And rather than promising, أن يكون إحسانك للناس فعلا بلا قولا. The way you treat people good is by doing actions, not just by talking. Oh yeah, bro, I got you, I'm gonna do this for you. Actions speak louder than words. The way you change and the way you get to these promises by actions. So quit the over-promising, just do more. That's how you treat people good. That's number 2, beware of promising. Number 3, backbiting. Backbiting. And the Quran says, وَلَا يَغْتَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا أَيُحِبُّ أَحَدُكُمْ أَنْ يَأْكُلَ لَحْمَ أَخِيهِ مَيْتًا فَكَرِهْتُمُوهُ. Backbiting is like what? What is it? Eating the flesh of your Muslim brother or sister when you're backbiting. There was a time where some Sahaba were sitting down and they were overheard backbiting. The Prophet said, get up and go floss your teeth. So we don't even eat anything. It's as if you ate the meat, the flesh bones, the flesh of your brother by backbiting, speaking behind their back. And let not some of you backbite others, right? And like we said, it's like eating the flesh of his dead brother, not even alive, but his dead brother. And you would truly despise that. And indeed, Allah likens you to not eat the flesh of one another. Now, when you look at backbiting, there should be matters that stop you from backbiting to begin with. Turn to yourself and say, am I perfect? I'm backbiting somebody about something they do, or the clothes they wear, or whatever it is. But you gotta look at yourself and you're like, am I perfect? Do I not have any flaws? What's the answer to that? Are you perfect? No. Do you have flaws? Yes. So why are you backbiting somebody else for their flaws when you yourself have flaws? And I understand it can be a very easy topic where sometimes you and your boy or another sister are speaking, right? And all you guys are just talking about a certain person that's close to you guys' life, and you guys are sitting there speaking and saying, you know what? Maybe this person, we just don't understand why he's not coming to the masjid. Or we don't understand what's going on with his life. We do it all the time. And you might not even think you're backbiting. But it's a huge sin. It's a huge sin. Be careful. And you don't want nobody speaking behind your back, right? Khalas, don't do it. Don't do it about others, especially if they're not around. Now, the fourth thing is about, we're still on the tongue, arguments and competitive debate. Arguments and competitive. Who's been watching the Umar Sulaiman series on the Jannah series? MashaAllah, good number of hands. So the Jannah series, he mentioned there's 10 ways that you can get a house built for you in Jannah. Pertaining to the tongue, what is one of those ways? Who can tell me?
Recite Qul Huwallahu Ahad every 10 times.
Recite Qul Huwallahu, but we're talking about in terms of your interactions with other people. Because there's a lot of du'as you can say and a lot of sunnahs you can pray to achieve getting a house in Jannah. But when it comes to your interactions with other people, what is one of those ways? When somebody leaves an argument, when you're arguing with somebody, even though you know you're right, 100%, there's so much proof that you're right. But you know what? You're like, listen, bro, khalas. Shukran, thanks for the talk. I'm done. Assalamu alaikum. Salam. Peace. Leaving that argument, you're not letting it escalate for the sake that it doesn't cause a problem. Allah will build for you a house in Jannah. So be aware of arguing and getting into all these debates. Okay, and even if you do, lower your voice, speak with a calm sense. Do not come at somebody's neck and start insulting, because it's very easy when you're debating with somebody, even as a joke, you start insulting. You start making them feel stupid about what they're saying. You start coming at them for their faults and the things they've done in the past. So be aware. So that's number 4. Number 5 is, I'm going to start with an ayah here, is praising and ascribing goodness to oneself. Constantly praising yourself. فَلَا تَزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ هُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنِ اتَّقَى. Do not constantly sit there. Do not ascribe goodness to yourself. He is more knowing. Allah is more knowing to what is in your heart. He's more knowing to those who are God-fearing. Oh yeah, I give lectures. Oh yeah, I do this. Oh yeah, I do that. Oh yeah, the other day I give this one sadaqah. And I did this, and I did that, and I did this, and I did that, and I pray Fajr every day, and this. Let it be. Who are you doing it for? So other people can say, yeah, he does it. Or are you doing it for Allah? So be aware of constantly doing self-praise. That's number 5. Number 6 is, what is the big one I missed? What is something majority of our youth do today? I slip up into this. Yes. Cursing. Beware of your tongue and the words you say. Cursing. And it slips out very easily. You don't even realize it. Sometimes in the masjid, we tend to do it. We have a rule at Golden Youth Group. Don't record me, please. Dylan's laughing. We have this rule where if you curse, one of the youth curse, even if the leaders curse, put your neck down, and what do you get? You get a neck slap. And that person who slaps you is in charge of how hard you get slapped. And you can't do nothing about it. Next time, don't curse. Imagine you say something and a little kid just comes up and how you gonna feel? Next time you don't want to curse in front of them. Allah is that simple. Right? We keep these rules, so we do these things so we can keep ourselves in check. Because it's a big deal. If we're saying things that don't please others, why would it ever please Allah? Be careful of cursing. There's 2 more. 7 is making dua against others, especially Muslims. Be aware of that. Making dua against others. And number 8 is making fun. Listen, this is for the youth. Listen. Making fun of your Muslim brother or sister or ridiculing them, even if it's a joke. Even if it's a joke. Abdul Malik, stop telling me my hairline is receding, please. He's saying stop ridiculing people. Alright? So even if it's a joke, don't do it. Because you don't know how that person's going to perceive it. Okay? Now, there's a hadith where النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال المسلم من سلم الناس من لسانه ويده. The Muslim is the one who other Muslims and people are safe from their tongues and their hands. Their tongues and their hands. I've been in personal situations before where I've harmed another Muslim with my hands. And I know for a fact I've harmed Muslims with my tongue. Maybe if you haven't done one, you've probably done the other. Now the Prophet ﷺ is saying a true Muslim is the one who safeguards himself from that. Where other Muslims are safe from their hands and their tongue. So that is all pertaining to the tongue. Now what have we mentioned in terms of limbs? What have we mentioned so far? We've mentioned eyes, ears, and tongue. So we've only mentioned 3. How many are left? How many? 4. Okay. Next is the stomach. Okay. فَحْفَظْهَا عَنْ تَنَاوِلِ الْحَرَامِ وَالشُّبْهِ وَاحْرِصْ عَلَى طَلْبِ الْحَلَالِ. So for the stomach, protect your stomach from, what is the things we protect our stomach from? Food and the wrong drink. And it's very clear in Islam that you shouldn't be eating certain things and drinking certain things. It's very clear. I don't have to go into that. I'm pretty sure everybody here knows. But not just that, it doesn't stop there. You gotta protect your stomach from what also? What is something we do every single night in Ramadan? Overeat. Now it comes to Taraweeh and usually I can't do this anymore. Finding any way to unbutton your pants or take a breather outside or whatever the case may be. And now you're all dozed off during prayer and all you want to do is sleep and overeating. The Prophet ﷺ when he used to eat, his stomach, a third of it would be food, a third would be water, and a third would be air. That means even Aisha said, she said, we've never, in the house of Allah ﷺ, we've never ate to the point we were full. We've never done that. We didn't even have enough food to do that. We didn't even have enough food to do that. Let alone just eating to eat. I do that sometimes where I'm just eating just to eat. Like I got nothing to do, so I just go to the fridge and see what's there to eat. Or if I'm going out with friends and just because I already ate at home, but everybody's eating in front of me, I'm going to go ahead and order another meal and I'm going to eat too. There's no point in doing that. Stay away from that. So that's number 4. Number 5, as for the private part. And the Quran, I'm just going to mention one ayah here. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ إِلَّا عَلَىٰ أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ فَإِنَّهُمْ غَيْرُ مَلُومِينَ. As for your private part, and those who guide their private parts except from their spouses, and from those what their right hand possesses, for in that case they are not blameworthy. But if it's not for your spouse, for any other reason you're using your private part, especially to commit sins, that's simple. And you won't be able to guard your private part if you're not guarding your eyes. It's not going to happen. A lot of things we do is because we watch and it involves something else. We go see or we're with somebody else and it involves something else. If you guard this, you won't even have to worry about the other. Start up here before you go anywhere else. Next, number 6 is the hands. فَاحْفِظْهَا عَنْ أَنْ تَضْرِبَ بِهَا مُسْلِمًا. Do not use them to strike a Muslim. أو تتناول بها مالا حراما. And do not use your hands to go work and make haram money. أو تؤذي بها أحدا من خلق الله تعالى. And don't use your hands to betray somebody else's trust. If somebody gives you something, don't use your hands to harm the thing they gave you. If somebody's traveling and saying, hey, I need you to keep my car parked at your house. Don't go use it and run around with it and do donuts and then give it back. Protect the amanas that people used to give you. Okay? And then the next thing is do not use them even to write something that is unlawful to say. فَإِمَّا, where is it? فَإِنَّ الْقَلَمُ أَحَدُ الْإِنسَانَيْنِ. The pen, what you're writing, and this goes even to texting and what you post online. it is a part of the tongue. If you're just typing it or writing it, the same as if you said it. Be aware of what you type and you say to your friends. And the last but not least is what have we left out? We talked about hands. What else we talk about? Eyes, your ears, your tongue, your stomach, and your private part. What did we leave out? There's one more. Your legs. Do not go anywhere with your legs and your feet that is haram. Meaning don't even get in your car and drive to that place either. Oh, but the hadith says your legs. It says don't walk there. Bro, don't drive there either. Don't do it. Okay, it's not one or the other. Don't ride on your camel if that's the case. Don't go there to begin with. Now, be mindful of your limbs that Allah has bestowed and entrusted with you. Be mindful. Every time you do something with something, remember, if you do something wrong with your hands, everybody here, raise up your hands like this, like you're making dua. Like this, like you're making dua. Here in this case, we're able to make dua. With these same hands that you're making dua with, you sing with. Imagine, the same hands you're asking Allah with, you sing with. How do you want to ask Allah? And imagine, I saw this one video of a brother who used the same exercise, told everybody to put their hands up and make dua. Everybody did except him. He wasn't able to. And he said, you know why? Because of the ma'asi I used to do. With these exact hands, Allah has taken it away from me. We knew a brother in Libya. In Libya, as a Muslim country, you hear the adhan everywhere. There was this specific person in our neighborhood, in our little city, that when it came to adhan, he wouldn't take his headphones off. He would continue to listen to music and YouTube or whatever the case may be. This is a story he's telling himself, by the way. He became deaf. Cannot hear anymore. How many of us have that adhan clock at the house, or your phone gives you adhan, immediately just shut it off? Or even at the masjid, we hear the adhan and we're constantly talking, or whatever the case may be. That same adhan your ears are supposed to be hearing, Allah can just take it away. Or when we hear scrolling on TikTok and Instagram Reels, the minute something Islam comes on, we scroll past it. Everything else, we sit there and give it time. Imagine what you're neglecting, Allah can take away from you. Now there was I remember seeing this, also another video, it's an older video, but it started resurfacing again, of a young boy. Who's seen the video of the young boy who was blind and he was saying, I'm so happy that I'm blind? Who's seen that video? That video, the boy, the sheikh was like, why are you happy? He's like, that's one less thing Allah can ask me about on the Day of Judgment. That's what, and he was a Hafiz Quran and blind. What's your excuse? And the Imam was sitting there crying, holding in his tears. And this little boy is saying, I'm so happy. Because Allah, this is one thing Allah will forgive me for. Have His mercy on me because I didn't have my eyesight. Therefore, He can't judge me for the things I saw or didn't see because I didn't have eyes to see them with. And it's one of the biggest things we do is see and look. And you will be asked about that. There's this hadith Qudsi of the man who, on the Day of Judgment, I mentioned this before, where he prayed 500 years. 500 years of straight ibadah, and he goes to Allah on the Day of Judgment, and he tells him, Allah says, you can enter Jannah with my rahmah, on my mercy. And the man says, I don't want to go of your mercy. I want to go because I prayed 500 years. What did I pray for? I want to go because I did all this ibadah. I prayed for you, Ya Allah. Allah says, okay. You don't want to go because of my mercy. You want to go because of your deeds. No problem. Bring out the scales. One end of the scale is 500 years of him praying. On the other end of the scale is the ni'mah that he was able to see. Just one ni'mah, that's it. The blessing Allah gave him to be able to see. What happens? The eyesight overweighs all his 500 years of ibadah. Allah says, don't you see? What we've given you, just this one blessing that what we've given you in comparison to your 500 years. And even in the Quran it mentions, I don't need the jinn and ins to do all this and do that and this. What you're doing is for you. Allah at the end of the day is still Allah. He was there before us by 50,000 years and eternal, and will be there after us. Whether we pray or not pray, it doesn't take any away from the fact that He is Allah. He is Malik al-Muluk. It doesn't take it. So what you're doing is for you. So maybe that one day Allah, because of the act you did, He can enter you into Jannah. Just maybe one day. Now in order, we talked about the limbs, now in order for you to protect these limbs, you have to what? We mentioned it in the beginning. Somebody mentioned it. What is it? We mentioned 7 limbs, and you guys mentioned, there you go, heart. In order for you to even protect these limbs, you gotta start with what? Protecting your heart. Work inside out. You gotta protect this. You gotta purify this. And there's also sins of the heart as well, which we'll cover for next time, inshallah. Now in the meantime, please go ahead and scan the QR code and ask whatever questions you need to ask. We will have Imam Shafi'i and Imam Shams come up. Are they still here or did they leave? Okay. Do you know if this works upstairs? Imam Shams. Anyway, we're going to have them come up and we can ask them questions. How are we looking at questions?
We got 10 so far.
Only 10 questions. We have 2 amazing Imams. All the questions you guys asked last week that I had no knowledge about, please ask again so our amazing Imams can answer for you. So we brought these Imams and it was very hard for both of them to fit this in their schedule, especially on such a short notice, so please utilize them. And we'll save about 20 minutes. It's still only 6:10. So we'll save about 20 minutes for them to come down. Can somebody call them?
Yeah.
Please? While we set up chairs. Do you guys have any questions about the topic we spoke about so far? All good? We're all scholars on this topic? Inshallah. Alright, great. So next week we'll cover the last part of disobedience, and that is sins of the heart. And we're going to welcome up here Imam Shams and Imam Shafi'i.